Before we step into what's next, it's essential to honor and embrace what has been. It's the dreaming time. It's to go into the fertile void. When we don't complete things clearly, it can really make us feel stuck. Let me be straight up and say I'm not really a big believer in New Year's resolutions, but what I am passionate about is the deep and real transformations that can happen when we properly take the time to end the year that was really consciously and create a sacred container to dream into the year ahead. So it's kind of like the end is also the beginning, but you kind of need to end things properly in order to properly begin with that fresh new energy. Beyond the chaos of December, we will soon be arriving at that magical stretch of time in between Christmas and New Year, which I absolutely love. It's known as like the time in between time, or time out of time. Yeah, I love this time. I know it is a busy time, but it also tends to be, we've got a little bit of time off work generally. And I think it does give us a chance to reflect on the year that's been and also start dreaming into the year ahead. So if you need some encouragement on why or how to do this, then this episode is for you. So about 8 years ago now, during one of these precious pauses between Christmas and New Year's, I was with some friends and we started chatting about how, we're all fed up with the whole New Year, New You narrative that bombards us at this time of year. And we just didn't have it in us to do the same old like New Year's resolutions and the goals of the year, but we also wanted to use the time like to step into a sacred container together, like to take a more soulful approach to ending the year that was before we raced ahead and wrote down all the things that we wanted to achieve in the coming year. And yeah, we worked out that like what was really missing for us was like this sacred pause, this sacred container to guide us through this process of reflecting on the year that was, while also once we've reflected it, then we can dream into the year that was calling us towards it, rather than like racing ahead and just being like, this is what we're gonna do, this is all the things. And and it can feel like that at that time of year, especially if you practice following like a seasonal approach to living. If you're in the northern hemisphere, it's winter, it's not time to kind of like go into that overdrive achieving mode. It's the dreaming time. It's to go into the soil, into the fertile void where the seeds are being planted. So it's more of a dreaming time. And if you're in the southern hemisphere, I know as well, it's like it's summer. You're kind of like you're wanting to enjoy your life. Again, it's the polar opposite, but it is also, from my experience, it's a time where you do want to like dream and vision, but not like go into this is all the things I'm going to do. So yeah, it's not to say that our plans and dreams can't be goals for huge success or accomplishments, but I believe that the first step is listening deeply. It's always listening deeply, if we're wanting to align or realign our lives to our soul's deepest and highest callings. And then once we've done that, then we can put steps into place to put it into action. So I'm a big believer in taking the time and space to properly reflect on the year that's been. I think it is so imperative, if we are wanting to get clear on what's calling us forth, to properly take a pulse of where we are. So it's like before we step into what's next, it's essential to honor and embrace what has been, where we are. I believe that this is true for anything, whether it's a relationship, a new job, a new house, or a new year. And with any completion, it's also so important to consciously and deliberately draw a line in the sand in order for a threshold to emerge and be crossed. Only then we can be clear on the blessing of what was, what is, and then what is becoming. when we don't complete things clearly, it can really make us feel stuck. It can also mean that energy gets stuck, like we're stuck in the past in a way, like part of us is stuck there, frozen. And that can prevent us from ever really moving on. So that's why I say the end is also the beginning. If we end things, if we take the time, a little bit of extra time to complete things and reflect properly before we race ahead, oh my gosh, we'll have so much more life force, which we can then use to create and plant those seeds and tend to the garden. And it's really why I'm so passionate about simple ceremony and ritual, and why I love teaching and talking about bringing ritual and just honoring those little thresholds before we race ahead. So properly honoring the ending before beginning again. I'm realizing that actually a lot of my podcast episodes touch on this topic in some way or another. There was one of the most popular is When Friendships End. There's another one which is one of my favorite topics to teach on, which is called How to Navigate Change. I find so much energy in this theme of properly honoring endings. We've got a beautiful ritual in the sanctuary actually called Honoring the Endings. And I've also created a visioning process, which is what I do at the end of every year. I'll tell you a bit more about that later. But yeah, there's a whole process of honoring endings of the year that was before racing ahead. Yeah, big fan of honoring endings. And yeah, I trust that it holds really important insight and medicine when we take the time to honor what is ending at this time of year. In our fast-paced lives, it's really easy to forget about and neglect the significance of closure and change. Nature itself, of course, teaches us the wisdom of endings, the falling of the leaves that pave the way for new growth, the petals that surrender themselves to the wind to make room for the fruit, and then the bud and the bloom of the second bloom. And yeah, just like the rose, we too need to allow ourselves to gather up the courage to release and let go of what no longer serves us. When we take this time to acknowledge our growth, our transformations, we become more attuned to the rhythm of life's pulse, which of course we're all part of this intelligent pulse of life. And so we've got this innate intelligence within us. And so don't underestimate the power of just taking a moment to reflect on the year that was. It's also amazing because we can just like forget the huge changes that we've been through in a year. And so it's just such a lovely way to acknowledge for yourself, but also acknowledge others in this. So yeah, it's such a great time of year to share with others in that way. The world around us might be encouraging us to rush at this time of year, to push forward. We know that society is like all about being in full bloom, 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 grow, grow, grow. But as ever-changing beings, it's just not our natural state. When we try and grow, 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 bloom, 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 push on into the new year without ending things properly, it's just not sustainable. We'll get exhausted and we don't have all our life force with us. And yeah, in this space in between, in this pause in between, we are able to honor what has been, where we are, and then tap into the intelligent pulse within us, tap into the potency of our soul in order to step into what we're really being called to step into. And I think we end up saving more time when we do that, when we close and end it properly, take a pulse, and then begin again. So I really encourage you to receive this episode as an invitation to reflect, to honor the journey you've been on this year. Maybe you want to light a candle, take out your journal, just let your heart speak. Looking into, like, asking yourself, what have you learned this year? How have you changed? How has the world around you changed? What are you being called to let go of before you step into this new year? Ask yourself questions like that. And I'll include these questions in the show notes as well, so you can just use them as journal prompts. And yeah, just make sure you try not to get ahead of yourself or focus too much on what you're calling in. Take a moment first at this point in time to really reflect on where you have been, the journey you've been on this year, where you are now before you race ahead. And if you're gathered with family or friends at this time of year, or even just, your husband, your partner, just one of your friends, you might want to consider how you can bring this honoring of ending the year into your gatherings, into your conversations. So maybe you have a catch up, might be on New Year's Eve or Boxing Day. Maybe there's a question that you ask people. And it's so nice asking questions like this, because it's just giving people a container to share within is just so moving. It's such a great way to connect, and everyone wants to share this kind of stuff. So maybe you might go around the table and ask people to share what they're most grateful for that happened this year. Maybe you'll ask them to share one way that they've changed most this year, or the biggest learning or biggest difficulty, or what you're most proud of that you have achieved this year. It really is a simple but such a powerful way of cultivating genuine connection at a time of year that can often feel really big and loud and silly and draining. So yeah, likewise, reflecting together with close friends can be a really beautiful way to witness and honor the shifts that are happening in each of our lives, the positive and the painful. And, it is often at this time of year, it can feel like a bit like you're having the same conversation over and over again. So disrupt that kind of, unconscious, just blah, blah, blah. Oh, how are you? It's like such a big question. How are you when, you haven't seen someone in a long time? And so you're just like, yeah, good, thanks. Like disrupt it with a genuine question on honoring the year that was. And as you sit with these reflections, you're also laying the foundations for all that you're calling in for the year ahead. So it's like planting the seeds for living a soul-led life. And if you would like more support in closing off the year, honoring the year that was, or looking to get clear once you have honored the year that was, on what you really want to step into in 2024. And if you'd like to go even more deeper in honoring the year that was, and then also getting clear on what your heart's deepest prayer is for this coming year, then you might want to check out my Work Your Light annual visioning process. It's been done by 10,000 people so far. And yeah, I created it 8 years ago. I can't believe it. I created it 8 years ago when I was with my friends, and we were in that in-between time between Christmas and New Year's, and we wanted to honor the year that was and reflect on that together while also visioning into the year ahead. So yeah, if you'd like that, it's a whole process. You get an amazing workbook, and there's video class as well, included like rituals, altar work, as well as a couple of meditations. And so you can pick and choose, like you can do it with other people as well. I always do it with other people too. And you also get some free check-ins through the year, so kind of like live gatherings, so you can stay focused and keep in alignment to what your heart's deepest prayer really is. And because we change as the year goes on as well, so it kind of helps you check in and be like, yeah, is this still the direction I'm being called in? Do I want to pivot, or do I want to like get really, really clear on this thing that I'm committed to really embodying this year? So yeah, you might want to check out the Work Your Light visioning process. So head to rebeccacampbell.me/visioning. I'm wishing you a wonderful year ahead and a very, very lovely last few days of your year.